Fantastic. And could we have the next image, please? Pretty please. Thank you. Print scores 83, silver award. Mandarin, you're an 88, and you would like to challenge, and we'll accept your challenge.
Yeah, this image is really exquisitely conceived, produced. I love the composition, the symmetry, that moon sitting right centre. The reflection on the water is beautifully produced as well. There's detail in that water still, and the highlight in those waves from the light behind is just perfect. The little animal, the little bird on the penguin on the beach is just adorable. So I'd love to hear why people haven't scored it in the distinction range.
Adam.
Yes, certainly. I appreciated the technical elements that we've described, and that is handled extremely well. There is a real finesse at the image. What I struggle, and maybe this is the story as well, and what I'm leaning for is the connection between the elements, or indeed the apparent disconnection between the elements that just don't marry together. I feel there's a separation that, if there's a narrative to that separation, I just don't feel I'm not making the connection between all of them. Even the lighting doesn't sort of match as it's either not as disconnected or as connected to produce that story. That's what I'm interested in hearing to make it come up into the next range. I'm on a low silver, and I think it's okay there.
Gary.
I saw this picture as this animal is on its stage. It had a feel of like a theatre to it, and the background, instead of being a landscape, was like a backdrop across a stage, and here's this lone cormorant out there on its own on its stage, just about to go on and go into the spotlight. So that's where I was at 82. So Mandarin, have a bit more chat when you get a chance. So, yeah.
Okay, Mandarin, you wrote a reply on this.
Thank you for clarifying the species. Look, I just think it's exquisitely produced, and the story to me, the full moon, everyone goes a little odd, and the wonderment of that cormorant just sitting on the beach all alone, just with that huge moon overshadowing it. It is just an exquisite image, beautifully crafted, and I love the softness, the quietness of it. So I'd love to see a silver distinction.
Okay, judges, can you please rescore the print? It currently sits on 83, and Mandarin has asked you all to join her in the next scoring range of silver distinction. That's her wish. And the print scores 84 by majority. Silver award. Close, it'll go for review, so next print, please. Print scores 80, silver award. Just get a comment from Ian, please.
I easily could have gone way higher. The story is so obviously forced down our throats, and I would have loved to have seen less of the constructed story and more of the delicious photographic technique that's been used to create this image. That guy, that model, that subject he's a cracker, absolute cracker, and I think we could do more than push the story with the elements and the shears and the chopped flowers from the crown of his head. So I'm suggesting to the author that this is a little bit try hard, which is sad because the skill behind it is very, very exquisite.
All right, thank you. Can we have the next print, please? Could I have Andrew sit on the panel, please? And G will just step off for this one. Print scores 79. And Andrew Campbell would like to challenge. He's on 88.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah, I kind of get the Tim Burton Nightmare Before Christmas thing going on here, which I think the author's done a pretty good job of interpreting it. But they've added a bit of whimsy as well, so it's not quite so bleak and black as that it's kind of fun and gently, soft. I love the design. I love the elements that are brought to us here. I think the photographer's done a lovely construct and a nice little ode to Christmas.
Okay, let's hear from Mandarin, please.
It is. It makes you think of Christmas, which isn't too far away, actually. The reason why I didn't go higher, though, I couldn't get past the little glow around the stars, which I thought, okay, that could be part of the concept. But then when I looked at the little branches behind the figure, it's there as well. And I thought, okay, is that just there because it's sort of in the shape of a Christmas tree? But it sort of doesn't follow through. So I would have liked it to be either all darker or all lighter in the silhouette of a Christmas tree.
Okay, Ian, you're on 81.
Oh, look, politically incorrect. This image is rather sweet, and I enjoyed it for that. I also enjoyed the bravery of giving me a full-frame, edge-to-edge print in these awards. Absolutely unheard of, and I'm enjoying that. But what a nice story, and Andrew alluded to something a little darker. I haven't seen that, but that's fine. He's very much entitled to his interpretation, and it's a good one. But no, I just responded to the sweetness of what had been produced here.
Okay, Andrew, your right to reply, please.
I dare say that the author's touching on some symbolism here with the choice of the elements that we're faced with. And I think, they're on their own journey. I'm kind of going along for the ride, and I'd encourage you to come with me.
Okay, judges, can you please rescore the print? Currently sits on 79, just outside the awards range, and Andrew has scored in the silver distinction range and has asked you to join him in that range. The print now scores 83, silver award. Thank you, Andrew. I'll get G back on the panel, please. G, can you come back? Can we have the next print, please? Okay, Mandarin would like to step off for this, and let's have Nuran, please, just step in for Mandarin for this image. Print scores 79. And just a comment from Gary, please. You're right on the average there.
There's some lovely subtle tones in the petals and flower petals, but in terms of comparison to the heaviness of the tone underneath, I just thought it was just a little bit too strong. So that's about the only thing that stopped me going higher.
Okay, thank you. Great comment. Next print, please. Print scores 81. Silver award. Comment from Adam. You're right on 81 on the average.
We often talk about the story being, well presented here, and there's a lot of attention that's gone into the symmetry that mirrors the message that we're being shown. I think to take it to that next level, there probably needs to be something beyond that initial message that what we get, which has been quite well presented. But well done for the attention to detail.
Thank you for that. Next print, please. Print scores 77. And Mandarin, you're on 82. You can challenge.
It's a really cool lithographic effect with the tree and the earth. It's graphically it's I'm really enjoying it. I would have potentially gone higher if I had have understood the story, but I sat on a silver because I enjoy viewing this image, so I'd like to hear some more from others.
Okay, G, you're on 74. You saw something different.
Yeah, look, I respect your comments about the image. I think, however, for me, in terms of the composition, in images like this, we have so much chance to really pull all our elements together in a way I wouldn't say that's perfect, but in a way that's really pleasing. And that spiky tree being where it is compared to the rose, I'm not seeing it's throwing off the relationship between these two objects. I would have really have liked to have seen a little bit better handling in that rose as well, in terms of like we got all those little things in front of it. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mandarin, you're right to reply. All the other judges are sitting around the same score, so you're the only one in silver.
I'm just enjoying the story of the new life, and the tree looks dead, and the birds are hovering above that tree, whereas there's new life being created. So it's the cycle of life. That's the way I see it. So I'd love to see it go up a little bit higher, a few more points.
Okay, judges, please rescore the print. It currently sits on 77. And print stays on 77. Next print, please. We are judging the Illustrative category, sponsored by AZO Monitors. We thank them for their support. Print scores 83, silver award. And we'll get a comment from Adam, please.
Certainly a beautifully constructed image, and I like the contrast between the sort of almost the considered imperfection of what we have and the perfection that's being shown over the face. I think that's a nice contrast. I would have liked that story a little bit more developed to take that into that next range to really give us that oomph that we want for silver distinction.
Okay, thank you. Next print, please. Print scores 77. And I'll get a comment from Adam, please. Yeah.
Certainly well presented elements that we see in a crispness that you see in the main part isn't mirrored by I find the texture to be a little overbearing, and I don't get the relevance of it to the rest of the print. So perhaps a cleaner version may bring this up and really emphasise that story.
Okay, thank you. Great comments. And next print, please. Print scores 80, silver award. And Gary, just a comment from you, please, on this image.
I enjoyed the fact that we're just dealing with white dots. I don't know what sort of bird we're looking at, and as a bird nerd, you know, sometimes they go a bit crazy. So yeah, that nice little play of white dots across a black sky, fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah, Adam, please.
The more I sort of move around this image, the more detail I see it in. So maybe it might be a thing to look at paper choice to see how it reacts under the lights. That it looks quite different from different angles. So it may be something just to consider for the future as well.
Yeah, great feedback. Thank you. Next print, please. Print scores 79 by majority. Ian Paul's on 88, and he's going to challenge. We'll accept the challenge.
Yeah, initially it's the total frame I enjoy, top to bottom, left to right. There's a delicious tonality there that I'm enjoying. It will be for some people too flat, but there are no rules that talk about that, and I enjoy the tonality of it. The hands coming up out of nowhere, clutching a strange silver object, that's fine. I can see other objects around that may eventually leap out of the ground and be somewhat similar to this, aliens or whatever. It's your choice to interpret how you will, and I'm not going to attempt to do that. But the central placement works. I'm an asymmetric man, but the central placement does work. It comes straight back at you, whatever that silver object is. It's looking clearly at me, and I'm enjoying that shape within the square frame.
Thank you. And Adam, yeah, you.
It is an interesting image from back here, and where I actually like the contrast of it as well in that central figure, and the detail around it is what to me stops me going into silver, because it's wonderfully detailed in the front, and then as I go back, I find the blending or the surroundings of each of those little things. I'm just not sure that whether deliberately done or not, it adds to the narrative of the photo, and it just feels that I just don't want to. I'm willing to hear an explanation for that, but that's what holds me back from silver at the moment.
Okay, Gary, you're in silver. You're a believer.
Yeah, look, I was just immediately drawn to the contrast between the spherical object in the hands and then this maceration of these two limbs peering out, emerging from the earth. So those two things, I don't know what's going on. I can't work out what's going on, but that doesn't matter. I just think the relationship between that spherical object and the macerated limb is really different and quite weird and odd. So, yeah, I'm in silver. And, Ian, I'm still listening to some other things you have to say.
Any other comments from any other judges before we hand it back to Ian? Yes, Mandarin?
Just a couple of quick ones, and I love this surrealism type imagery, Jerry Ullsman, anything really draws my attention. The reason why I didn't go higher, and I scored it in professional standard or, approaching award level, why I didn't go higher was I wanted to see a little bit more commitment with that main tree trunk. It just sort of fades off into the grass. I would have liked to have seen a few little tree roots or something that really added to it. And also the clouds in the centre behind the hands, it's almost like they're overprinted. There's a bit of magenta, there's a bit of, there's just some printing issues there. And finally, just the placement of those little balls in the back that are quite close to the edge. That's very brave of the photographer, but I just think placement could have been a little different.
Okay, Ian, your right to reply, please.
Black cloud, there's a storm coming. I'm comfortable that the sharpness of this is really on the silver object in the hands. The rest is subsidiary, and the viewer has to do some work, and that's good for the viewer to actually work at a photograph. You've got to go in there and find some details, some information. I certainly haven't found a story. I'm not trying to say that in any way, shape or form, but the fact that it asks more questions of me than delivers answers, I find quite exciting. And the shape of the whole thing, including the one object on far right just touching the frame, I find that pretty exciting too. 88.
Okay, guys, can you please rescore the print? Currently sits on 79 by majority, and Ian's on silver distinction, and would like you to join him in that range. Need some scores? Have you all rescored? Nothing's coming through. Pretty. Might have to call out the back. Help. Could we just have a blank screen, please? Thank you. Okay, so we've just got a slight glitch in the matrix, as they say. So while we have this little lull in our judging process. Earlier we heard from some of our judges a little bit about their story, so let's continue with that. So Mandarin, at the end, we haven't heard from you yet. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, this is my 10th year entering APPA and being here. It's my first year judging, so I feel very privileged and lucky, and I'm really enjoying the images coming through. This is actually my favourite category. My photography is mainly portrait-based. I do a bit of other things, and over the years I've done all sorts of things, even cars, food, lots of architectural, but I really love narrative photography, surreal, conceptual photography, coming from a background of working in dark rooms, printing and analog. I actually love where digital can take my imagery, so really enjoying it.
Thank you so much for sharing. And Ian Poole, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're new at this. Yeah, a new kid on the block.
I was arguing with Ian Vanderwald the other day. I may or may not be the longest serving active member in the Institute at the moment.
That deserves a round of applause, definitely.
There are a couple of honorary life members who are longer serving than me but no longer active. But no, I come out of an advertising commercial background in Brisbane. I did a fair bit of teaching. It was interesting to be on a panel earlier with two of my students from the olden days.
Yeah.
I'm still here with one of them.
That's right.
Which is a buzz, I have to tell you, because it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
these days I'm working more on unbundling my archive of negatives into the Queensland State Library. So
Fantastic.
my time is fairly full.
Thank you, and thanks for sharing, and thank you for your commitment to our industry and our institute. Adam, let's hear from you.
This is also. I actually think this is my 9th year entering and my 4th year judging at APPA, and having learnt my judging thing under the tutelage of these two good men beside me at Queensland, who have been a wonderful support. And judging is something that has immensely helped my work. I'm a newspaper photographer, worked in a small regional newspaper for 22 years, and this is a fantastic experience for judges and entrants alike.
Fantastic. All right, while we were hearing those beautiful stories, our scores did come through from that rescore, and the print now scores 85, silver distinction. Great work, judges. Great work. Okay, and could we have the next print, please? That was a good print. That's great. Print scores 75. Let's get a comment from Gary, please.
Yes, look, I tried to find out what was going on here, and I think it's about a faceless person, but it didn't quite come across. Your eyes ultimately land on this figure's hair. So I think if that faceless idea could have been resolved a bit stronger, I would have been a little bit higher up with my scoring.
Okay, thank you. Next print, please. G will step off for this print, and can I have Andrew Campbell take G's spot? No, you can't take her chocolate. Just for the benefit of the audience, once again, judges have the right to step away from a print if they don't feel comfortable in judging for whatever reason. And this is why you've seen Andrew Campbell stepping in for G and judging the print. Print scores 84 by majority. Silver award. Mandarin, let's hear from you on this print.
It's absolutely exquisite when you stand right in front of it. Beautifully composed. It seems like there's a bit of a narrative of movement with the animal on the left and obviously the fighting animals on the right, sparring. The reason why I didn't go a little higher is I just would have liked to have seen it not quite as flat. For me, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more light and shade, so to speak.
Okay, thank you. G, you can come back. And can we have the next print, please? Next print, please. Pretty, please. Print scores 78. G, you're an 83 and you'd like to challenge?
Yeah, look, I walked up to this print and I was like, oh, okay. We see just everything's really beautifully handled. Everything's lovely and crisp. You can get a feel for what this day is like, and there's no person in the shot, but I know what it would feel like to be there at that point. And I think it's motively communicating that to me. There was nothing technical that really stood out to me from the first go. Some people may be offended by that little, blue strip of light across the middle in the ocean, but I really quite enjoyed that. It held us there. Yeah, so I don't know. I would love a silver for this. I think we want to reward the author.
Adam, let's hear from you. You're on 78. You're just outside the award range.
Yeah, look, I completely agree. It's that it is a well seen and well handled image, and the colour palette that we get to is what brings me to the higher end of professional practice. I don't believe it rewards us enough to get us to that next level, and that's what I'm looking for to go to silver.
Gary, let's...
Look, I was probably with Adam on that. I was following the path, following the jetty, but ultimately when I got to the end of the jetty, I was looking for something else to tell me a bit more, and I didn't get that. So good professional practice here, but I just wanted a bit more at the end of the jetty.
Okay, thank you. You're right to reply, G, on this.
Yeah, look, I really understand that. I felt that too, when you get there. But for me, it's about the absence of a person. You don't always have to have something, or not a person or another thing. The image is just saying, this is what this day feels like. And that's totally okay. And I think the colour palette is beautiful. I think the way it's handled is beautiful. If we're seeing the technique holding together gorgeously, it's telling a story. And for me, that colour palette does elevate it to that silver range. I would love a silver.
Okay, thank you. Let's rescore the print, judges. It currently sits on 78 outside the award range. She has challenged you all to join her in the award range. And print now scores 79, which will go for review. Well done. Next print, please. Print scores 74. And just get a comment from Ian, please, on this print.
Yes, there's a fair bit of work being done in setting up this shot. But then I question, why did you set up this shot? The heavy black at the top and fairly heavy on the left, when you have these interesting things with that light rim running down the spine and closely cropped to the edge of the page, shows far greater sophistication than is evident elsewhere in the photograph. So it's a problem for me of being unresolved, and unfortunately judges are fairly greedy in that regard, and I apologise profusely, but it just is not resolved fully.
Okay, thank you. And we'll take this opportunity for a judge change. So, Mandarin, you've been on for a while. Thank you. Let's bring Nuran on. And Nuran Zulu joins us on the panel. Welcome back. And we'll have the next print, please. Print scores 84 by majority. And we have Ian on 93 who is going to challenge. So take it away, Ian.
I recall this image from their digital walkthrough, and it's nice to know that images that are up for a fraction of a second and catch your eye can reward you when you get more time to look at them. I'm enjoying the tonal range. It's flat. It's non-glossy. It's showing the emaciated body of this guy. He may or may not be an addict, a recovering addict. He may or may not be somebody who's been in hospital. He probably shouldn't be smoking, but you've seen these guys outside hospitals or institutions sneaking out. It becomes harder these days if you're in a wheelchair to find a place where you can smoke. I'm enjoying the balance of the photograph, which includes that fabulous light up in the top right-hand corner. I've found and enjoyed the subtlety of the bird cage. Have no idea of the connection to the photograph, but there's an element, a textural element that mimics the wheel of the wheelchair. His feet are placed so casually. The look is on the face is not death-like, but it's devoid of any great emotional contact, which is mimicked by the body, the skeletal, particularly the chest and the arms. I think it's a strong and powerful piece of communication. We all should have a bit of a chat about it if we possibly can.
Absolutely. So I'm going to hear from G. You're on 83.
Yeah, Ian, I really enjoy that you commented on the colour palette of this and the flatness of it, because that was what really made me give it that score. What I felt when I walked up to it, there was something missing in terms of just composition, and I realised it was just coming back a bit because we got that light right on the edge of the frame, and I'm having this tension between him and that light there, and I'm not really... I think having it on the edge of frame feels quite empty to me. It feels like it's telling us to go to a spot that I don't want to go to. And in terms of that bird in the cage, it's sitting right at the edge of frame, right? I just want to come back. I'm so desperate to come back. That was why I gave it the score I did. I think it is a solid silver. I could consider coming up for that colour palette alone, so thank you for raising that, but yeah.
Let's hear from Gary. Gary's on 84, so just on the average.
Yeah, look, I saw this guy smoking himself to death. He's killing himself. I think there's actually even a little he's almost Christ-like, this guy as well. He's got a loincloth across the, across his midsection. Yeah, so he's resigned himself. He's dying, and it's all his fault. So Ian, you can come back to me with some other things. I'm at 84, and I can be swayed a little bit higher as well. So yeah, have another run at me, Tiger.
Okay, yeah. Take it away, Adam.
Look, great images are about conflict within ourselves or within here. But what stopped me initially from going higher, I think, was the disconnect of that light that you mentioned. Doesn't really mirror in what I see in the main image. The flatness of the light across that person's torso doesn't match with what I'm visually given. That being said, though, the more that I look at it, and especially I thank you so much for the Christ reference, because I was trying to give it, there is a translucence, a transparency about where the tones have been placed. That wheelchair blends almost beautifully into that door, and there is a ghost-like feel. The smoke adds to that as well. That brings me up into silver distinction because I like that visual element. That's a very clever piece of communication. As for gold, though, however, I'm still conflicted about how I'm being drawn into the main figure, and just that visual element blocks me. But I'm certainly willing to come up to silver distinction.
Ian, your right of reply, please.
I so pleased when G said that she found a tension problem with that light in the top corner. It's meant to upset you, and it's meant to offend your aesthetic parameters, because there is a tension there. If you wanted to extrapolate a story that there is some redemption there for this guy, you could. I'm not necessarily suggesting that. I am suggesting that there is almost a god-like light coming down on the skeletal chest and frame there. The flatness I'm really, really, really loving, because nowhere in the rule book does it say everything has to be glossy or anything like that. It doesn't matter what Rocco prints on, but to take the bravery to produce in this tonal range, I think adds further to the story. I think it's a powerful piece of communication, and for me, it's in the 93 range.
Okay, judges, can you please rescore the print? It currently sits on 84 by majority, and the challenge is by Ian to take it up to gold. So let's rescore the print. And print scores 89. Silver with distinction, an extremely high silver with distinction. And it'll go in for review for a possible another bite at the cherry a little bit later on. So we're going to have the next print, please. Of G stepping off, and we'll have Andrew Campbell just sit in for this print, please. You're actually on now. So. Print scores 83, silver award. And we have a challenge by Andrew Campbell on 88. So take it away.
Yep, glad we all like it. Think it's terrific that it's got a score of that nature, but I'd like to suggest we make a higher score. There's so much work that's gone into this. I just have to reward that for a start. And the work that's gone into it has been beautifully done, really exquisitely crafted. So the Ring Around a Rosie feel here, the doily, if you like, the design, the pattern, the colour choices, it's all there for me. I'm very comfortable with what I'm looking at, but as you sort of sit back at it, you start interpreting it in different ways. So if you didn't get it, can you tell me why?
Niran, tell us why, because you're on 79.
I tell you why. For my opinion, actually, highlights conflicting here for me because of two different highlight areas in here. And I think image is very bright, highlights very bright for that reason. And the paper choice, I think if it's on the matter sort of things, bit more texture, I think would have added a bit more to the image. I'm in 79, but I'm happy to listen further.
Okay, let's hear from Gary, please. You're on 82.
Yes, it's punchy and clean and commercial and exact and perfect all the way round, and I awarded that. To get me a little bit further, I need some nuance, and I just need some more subtlety, because it is ultimately just an entire repetition, and I've rewarded that well executed repetition, but I'm not going any further beyond that repetition. It's a good score, a silver. Andrew, you've got to find me some other things, and then let's keep going.
You'll write a reply, Andrew, please.
Happy to provide that. There's a seasonality to it. You're not just seeing a bunch of flowers in a circle. You're seeing the whole flower life as it goes from the bud to the seed to the flower. So you get the whole sense of, beginning and end. But you've actually been brought all of that with design. And when you combine that subtle story with beautiful design and superb execution, I think we have to start really thinking about silver distinction. And that's where I'm going with this. I'm happy with the paper choice, Nira, and I think either or.
Okay, judges, can you please rescore the print? It currently sits on 83, and Andrew has challenged it to move it into the next scoring range of silver distinction. And Andrew succeeds on 85. Well done. Silver distinction. And we will have a judge change. So, Andrew, you can stay where you are now. You're on the panel. Gee, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. And Adam can have a rest. And we'll bring Trevor Foon back on. Welcome back, Trevor. Thanks for playing with us. And could we have the next print, please? And this category is brought to us by the good people at ASO Monitors. We thank you for your support, ASO. Print scores 77. Andrew, just a bit feedback.
Mixed messages here. I'm not convinced that we need to see black and white and the colour here. I'm not totally sure that the author's choice there has given me enough information to want me to lift my score much higher. That being said, I think there's a story in there that is waiting to be told. I just don't think we've been brought it with the execution in this case.
Thank you. Next print, please. Print scores 81, silver award. Gary, just a quick comment from you, please.
Yeah, sure. I have absolutely no idea what I'm looking at, which is fantastic. I scored at 82. It's a really interesting picture. The left-hand side of the frame has got a little bit of too much weight compared to the rest. But apart from that, yeah, a very interesting picture. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next print, please. Print scores 75. And Ian, just a quick comment, please.
Yeah, frustrating photograph. I thought I saw a figure when I got up there. It may or may not be a water hydrant on the left-hand, lower left-hand side. I can understand the photographer taking this photograph, but I don't think there's a reason behind the photograph, and I would have liked to have been better able to read and understand that reason. And the abstract shape alone is not enough to drag me up to a silver award.
All right, thank you for your comments. We'll have a judge change. So, Ian, you can take a break and we'll welcome back Mandarin Montgomery on the panel. No, take it. No, it's for you guys as well. So, welcome back. And we'll have the next print, please. Print scores 85, silver distinction. I get a comment from Trevor, please.
I just love the narrative of this, where this guy has an addiction and he's just losing everything around him, to the point where at the end he suddenly looks up and realises his life's gone. I love it.
Thank you. And can we have the next print, please? Print scores 77. Nuran.
I don't think is in this print that post-processing technique works for this image, and also color palette actually too blue for this very image. And what I advise, and actually, if we crop the image and a bit less processed with the movements, I think there would have been better image.
Okay, thank you. Can we have the next print, please? Print scores 84 by majority. And Mandarin, let's get a comment from you, please.
I scored this a solid silver. I love the narrative of this. It is such a cool image, beautifully composed. The reason why I didn't go up higher, just a couple of small things. I found that the lighting on the animals was a little different to the lighting on the lady. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more chiaroscuro on her body to just tie in, and also underneath that table I would have loved an extra element, some scraps or something, just to take it that one step further.
All right, thank you. Great comments. And next print, please. We get Mandarin to step off for this print, and G, will you come on and judge on for Mandarin? Print scores 86, silver distinction. And we have Andrew Campbell on 92, who is going to challenge.
Yeah, fabulous image in my opinion. Just exquisite design. Really enjoying the depth and the perspective that we've been presented with here. And as your eye journeys in, we get this fabulous shadowy mountain which just balances that top half of the frame so perfectly, in my opinion. I'm not quite sure what the story is with the picture, and I'm not sure it needs to have one, because it really sits quite beautifully just as a design piece. I'm just amazed at the three-dimensionality that it exhibits. So excellence in technique and excellence in design. I think for those reasons I have to start thinking about gold.
Okay, Gary, you're on 84.
Yeah, it's a really interesting picture. I'll tell you what the story is, Andrew. This house is surrounded by power lines and power, and I think it missed out. I don't think it's got any. I think that's what we're at. Anyway, that's where my brain's at. But apart from those things, I did enjoy the balance between the darker bottom and the light top as well. I may have been looking for some other elements in around the house to expand on that story of not happening, but yeah, keep going. Let's keep talking.
Niran.
I was very close to gold. The reason is pull me back, and like all the graphic elements, and Andrew, you suggested perfectly. But one little thing that actually, if I have one more step in the frame on the left-hand side, that would have completed the picture to me. That one extra step there, showing that actually they're leading the house, one very small element that pushed me out from the gold range to this high silver range. But I'm very happy to listen. I totally 100% agree with you. Beautiful image to look at, and very nice feel. But I'd like to hear a little bit more convincing from you.
Andrew, you're right to reply.
Yeah, almost at a loss for words for once. Thanks, Gary. The idea of the power thing, I get that now. I can see where you're coming from. It reminds me a little bit of that little house from Up, if you've seen that movie, where you've got that that sort of lost in time feel. I think the author's obviously clearly constructed this beautifully. So perhaps wherever your mind takes you, that's the journey. And I think Rand, just to pick up on that missing element, sometimes the discord is what we need. We need that little trigger to bump our OCD into sort of like, oh, okay. That's making me really think about that, and if I'd put that there, it would have been amazing, but they didn't put it there. But is it still amazing for you anyway? We all go on our own journey. My journey is gold. Encourage you to come with me.
Thank you for those comments. Judges, can you please rescore the print, which currently sits at 86, silver distinction, and Andrew wants you to join him on his journey of gold for this print. Print scores 89. Close, but no cigar. But it'll go for a review, and it'll get another bite of the cherry, perhaps. So 89, excellent score. Excellent work, judges. So, G, thank you so much for stepping in for Mandarin. Yeah, it was very comfy, yeah. And could we have the next print, please? Print scores 75. Trevor, you're on 80. Challenge?
This is actually hard to put into words. It's such a soft, high key image, and it has a clarity and it's just a feeling that gels with me. Sometimes I just can't describe what I love about an image, but I sort of have in my mind that's where it should sit in the score range, and I have to say that's why I put it there this time.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, you saw something different. You're on way lower than
sorry,
that.
Trev, that's not helping me much. my score is considerably lower than that because I guess I'm confused and my eyes led everywhere and there's no particular focal point other than a sign that says private jetty, and I look at that and I think, so from a communication point of view, I think the authors left me wanting a great deal more, not just a little bit more, but, you know, everything. So please can elaborate.
Mandarin, do you want to say something?
Just one extra point. I agree with everything Andrew said, but also with use of space. Like, negative space is really cool, but the bottom half of this image is not adding anything to the image. It's just bland, out of focus. It needed a different crop or just different work.
Okay, thank you. Trevor, you'll write a reply.
Yes, I can't say much more, but this image really gels me. Maybe it's sort of where I grew up and it's hit a chord with me personally. I thought it was worth more than the score it's been given, and I just applaud the author to try a little bit more in the future then.
Okay, thank you, judges. Please rescore the print. It's currently on 75. We have blown up the system. Yep, we're currently experiencing some technical issues, one might say. Very small technical issues. Like, I don't have anything on my screen. I don't know how small or great that is, but I think they've all spoken. Trevor, let's hear about your story. Where did it all begin?
I knew it would come to this.
Yes.
Okay, my name's Trevor Foon.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. That was enough. Okay, next one. Okay, we're back on. Okay, have you all scored that image? Yep. Okay. Can I get you to just rescore it? And print stays at 75. And could we have the next print, please? Print scores 77. Gary, you're on 82. And you will challenge? Thank you. I'll accept your challenge and take it away.
Look, I have a little bit of work to do here, but I'm going to try. It's a very simple picture, but it's also very subtle in terms of some nuance. The repetition of the double, triple, quadruple exposure is really quite well done in terms of the body and the form. I completely admit that there's a couple of tonal things that are a little bit stronger. However, I think the way the human form has been dealt with and that subtlety of curve and smoothness of the skin has got me to silver, and I'm rewarding the photographer for that. There's a couple of you not far off from me. So, yeah, just have a little bit more of a look at that human form and think about that part.
Andrew, you're on 70 with this, so you saw something different.
I think my main issue with this is, and whilst I agree that the professional practice is there, the choice of the subject. To make a high key image, I'm old school. I want a blonde subject, or a bald subject, or something that's not a brunette subject, because to me it's falling over as a design piece because it's so top heavy, and I'm just left wanting a lot more. So whilst I applaud the idea and the execution, I think it sort of fell off the blocks at the start to me.
Nuran, you're almost on silver. You're on 79.
I'm listening both argument, and I'm on the edge. The reason I didn't go and one level up, very similar reason to Andrew mentioned, but do we really need this sort of I want to look at a bit more clean lines in this image. I mean, I know what's been presented to me, this image, but I just can't find that narrative and that communication with this image right now.
Okay, thank you. Gary, Mandarin, you want something? You want a sec?
Just one really quick extra comment. This is a technique that I feel that the photographer could work with in future to develop further, because it is quite interesting. But I would have loved to have seen the hair, more use of the hair, like a twirl down the back or something to add a little bit more. It's quite an odd shape, and just at the bottom of the bottom is really distracting. It's just a dark shape, and you could work in future with something like this and create something really intriguing.
Gary, you're right to reply, please.
Okay, look, I may or may not get you guys across, but I think in terms of, I've seen enough to get me to a silver. I'm not asking for anything any higher than that, and I only have to get a couple of you over. I think the balance of the heaviness on the top is countered by some nice darker detail in the bottom, and that bottom half and bottom third is a really interesting piece. So let's rescore.
Thank you, judges. Please rescore the print. Currently sits on 77. It's been challenged to go into the silver range by Gary. And the print stays at 77. Could we have the next print, please? Print scores 78. Trevor, you're on right on that average.
Yeah, look, initially there was lots going on there for me to look at and really search into, but I felt that the elements look a little bit just pasted on, and the sense of scale seemed wrong to make the whole thing really, really believable.
Okay, thank you. Next print, please. Print scores 77. And I'm going to get a comment from Nuran, please.
When this image come out, and I was very excited, but when I get closer, the posing is actually doesn't work with the concept altogether. Been looking for a bit more engagement from the models with the talent. I mean, if it's that engage with us a bit more strongly, I mean, or they're doing something bit more substantially, I think there would have been much better image.
Okay, thank you. We'll do a judge change, please, Gary. You've been on. Thank you. And we'll bring Ian Poole back on. And Andrew Campbell, thank you for your time on the panel. We will see you soon. Have a bit of a rest. And Adam, please join us. Yeah, and we'll Adam, and then Adam Horrigan. And Ian Poole. Okay, next print, please. And then we'll bring Chief and Mira, who's been on. Pretty shiny things. Print scores 79 by majority. Nuran, you're on 84 and you will like to challenge. We'll accept your challenge.
What's the scores again?
79 by majority.
We are 1 point away from 80, silver award, and I would like to invite you to do this image again. Graphic and the design side of it is perfectly done, and all the elements are actually placed in the right place for my liking, and the tree in the center and generate all the sort of attract all that beautiful life forms, like a couple of kangaroos there, the birds, and really take me the journey to look in that area in almost like a barrenness of the ocean and little life happening there. And from that aspect of it, I think it's like ought to be commended to be in award range.
Okay.
I would like to invite you to silver.
Okay, Trevor, you're on 78. You're almost there. You're kind of thinking about it.
Yeah, like I was a little confused when I got up and started to look at the narrative behind it. I was so involved with the textures and the beautiful detail and things happening there, but I couldn't see that story happening with the animals is obviously Australiana, but in the water under the tree there was almost like a form there, and it's not quite there. That was a little confusing. The elements to me don't all gel together really, really well, but I'm sitting here listening.
Okay, Adam, yes. You're also on 78.
Yeah, and look, actually, and listening to what you say, actually, I get the idea. It's the view from out the porthole, and this is the new land. This is probably the white person's discovery of our nation. It's from beneath the boat. It's that tree that pops out, and you can see where it grows from underneath. Even that's the narrative I sort of took with it. I am distracted, I think, by the textures that sort of surround the whole image, which stops me getting further into that story. But I'm in the middle silver, and I'm happy with it there. I think it deserves that sort of level.
Mandarin, yes.
I'm nearly there, but there's a couple of things that held me back. I love the idea of shape repeating shape. So that image I feel would have really worked well in a circular mat. It really would have helped it. Also, I agree with that shape under the water. Commit to it. Either have more of it there, like more of the roots of the tree, or just make it disappear. And also that overlay, I would really work very hard on making sure the overlays enhance the image and not detract from it, which I feel it detracts a little.
Nuran, your right to reply, please.
Just that's the aspect of this photo I quite like, and that pattern and that looking through that little hole, and it shows the two different worlds. And I think that's need to be there for getting a narrative for this one. If we're going to go to discover something new from our existing or our comfort zone, this is exactly explained that one to me. I'm looking through where I am to something new. And we are in 79. For this photo, definitely need to be, for my liking, go to the silver range. Please, judges, reconsider your score.
Okay, judges, please rescore the image. Currently sits on 79 by majority, and Nuran's wants you all to join him in the silver range, and you have joined him in the silver range on 81. Silver award. All right, we'll have a judge change. Nuran, that was hard work, so you can have a rest now. Okay, and we'll bring G back on. Welcome back, G. Yes, no need for violence. Yes. No slapping. All right, judges, we're ready to go. We'll have the next print, please. Yeah, go. That's fine. Thank you, judges. And your scores? Yeah, you all got your scores in? Okay, hang on a sec. Anything, do not step away from that. I've just pressed it. No, well, it won't let you do it. Okay, we're just experiencing some technical issues, which is extremely unusual today, isn't it? It's first time. So bear with us. The system is having a bit of a think about things. Okay. So let's get back to Trevor's story. Shall we? We were kind of. You do it quickly just before the system comes back.
Okay, I just like this.
Okay, thank you, Trev.
Yeah. I just wanted to say how much fun I have sitting with esteemed people like Rocco, who loves to dress up in op shop clothes like I do.
Thank you, thank you.
Still going, okay.
Yeah, we're good.
I'm Trevor. I'm a rural photographer in Wonthaggi on the south coast of Victoria. I was born into photography, so I learned everything about photography from my father. I started doing weddings before I could drive, so Mum had to drive me around while I shot them. I just love the old ways of photography. Digital stuff leaves me a little bit cold, so I love going back to old processes, building old cameras, making old images, and just having a great deal of fun with analogue photography while I still run a business using that digital stuff. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And just in time, because we do have a score that has come through, and the score is 80 by majority, silver award. And Mandarin, you would like to challenge that because you're on 85. So take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I gave this a silver distinction because I think it is really worthy. I'm really enjoying the colour palette, the story, the little animal. It's like he's got his heart there, taken the owner's heart with him to the grave. I think it's beautifully composed, and I'd love to hear what others say.
Thank you, G. You saw something a bit different.
I'm really glad I get to talk about this image because I want to speak to the author about this. The cat or the creature down the bottom, oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. But what's really held me back is just that text up the top on that grave. Cut this image in half, get rid of all of that, simplify this down, and you have something really beautiful. The text at the top isn't adding anything. You're telling us, you're forcing this idea onto us. And we don't need to do that. We need to be subtle in this image because we have the subtlety of this beautiful cat. So please revisit. But I just...
Thank you for those comments. Adam, you're on a solid silver.
I, from an aesthetic point of view, I agree with the text. I don't mind that they're trying to add to this story, and perhaps there is a significance in the date that we're not privy to that the photographer has. I do tend to agree that for me it sits in that solid silver range because I am communicated well by that bottom half of the image, but I'm a little blocked by the aesthetic value of that text.
Okay, Mandarin, your right or reply, please.
Actually, you're spot on with that comment, G, as far as the text, and that's the reason why I didn't go into the gold range. I still think it's worthy of a silver distinction just for the beautiful, delicate handling of that skeleton and the story of that heart sitting on its lap. The texture of the earth, the background, it's just exquisite. So I'd love to see a silver distinction.
All right, thank you, judges. Can you please rescore the print, which currently sits on 80? And Mandarin's asked you to join her in the next scoring range of silver distinction. So Ian and G. Awesome. The print now scores 82, silver award. Nicely done. Okay, next print, please. Print scores 77. And Ian, let's get a comment from you.
Look, enjoyed the technique that was involved in this. And there's quite an amount of that, but beyond that, I found difficult to relate. How could I make this better? No, I couldn't, because the initial premise is the final premise, and or the final result, and I worry about that. That's all.
All right, thank you. Next print, please. Sorry, during the judging, there shouldn't be any discourse with. Can we just have a blank screen, please? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Now, judges, you can judge this. G would like to step off for this, and we'll have Gary Greenwich, please. Print scores 85, silver with distinction. And Mandarin's on 90, gold, and would like to challenge. So take it away.
And I looks like I might have a bit of a range as well.
You do, yes?
Yeah. Look at when the first thing I look at when this image turns around, it looks like an iris, an eye, with all the little veins, the pupil. Then you go up to it, you see the tree stump, which is, if it's every year for one little band, it's 10 years. The birds, the placement of the birds is exquisite, because birds circle trees, or circle things, and these birds are circling that bird nest. So that's placed perfectly in the tree. Beautiful presentation, colour palette, tonality. I'd love to hear from others why they haven't scored it in the gold range.
Okay, I'm going to hear from Ian, because you're on 78. So give us your thoughts.
Yes, we have the obligatory dropped in birds. There should be a rule in this category how many birds you can drop into any photograph. It's become a cliche, unfortunately, and it goes on year after year. The construct and the repetition of the pattern is delightful, and probably I've been a fraction harsh on it, but to scream up to gold, I would have some difficulty. There's not enough narrative there. One could argue that we're looking at a tree trunk, but I'm not necessarily convinced of that. And it's a construct, beautifully put together. The craft involved in this is very, very high, and probably I should give a little more reward to that.
Adam, you're an 86.
The construct that we see is a homage to these circles, and what I enjoy about this is not only the idea, that the reality of that polar viewpoint. There's parts of the background that you can see as you go around. So that's what brings me up into Silver Distinction, the sort of sense of reality that I'm looking at in the very unreal photo. What stops me from going into gold is that I really want to I want that story of the tree trunk and the age of the trees to give, and I'm not rewarded when I get in there. It doesn't have that crispness that the rest of the photo has. That beautiful crispness that once it takes me up there, and I'm just a little tiny bit let down. And I do not want to be let down by a gold, but everything else about it says to me that there is superior craft here in Silver Distinction.
Mandarin, you're right to reply, please.
Thanks for all the comments. Really excellent. With regards to the birds, I guess there's a lot of things in all categories that you see a lot of birds, trees, all sorts of things. I always try and look at every image with fresh eyes, even if there is more birds in that image. And I think this image has treated that genre really beautifully. The way that bird on the left especially is circling that bird's nest so beautifully, and the others are heading towards it. They're heading home. And a couple of other things just to reiterate. That colour palette, those beautiful soft lemony tones are so respectful to the rest of that image. It is just beautifully treated, and the way that it's been presented without the mat board over the top is just superb. And to me, the delicate nature of it definitely deserves a gold.
All right, thank you for those comments. Can you please rescore the print, judges, which currently sits on 85, Silver Distinction. We have a challenge. And the print now is at 86, Silver Distinction. And every point counts, so well done. Okay, so we'll have the next image, please. Print scores 78. Mandarin, you're an 83. So challenge.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised that it didn't get up there into a silver. I think this is a really stunning image, or group of 4 images, and I'd love to hear why the judges scored it a little lower.
Adam.
There's no real story here. We're being presented with a fairly scientific view. And while there's been a lot of attention to detail to some parts of the image, other places the focus drops out, and where I want to look in the image and where I'm led to, I kind of can't see that detail where I'm led around the image. I'm just not, I'm not getting a narrative, so I have to look at it as just a straight construct, a scientific sort of exposition, and I don't think it succeeds past a good professional standard of attention to detail. To take it further, it really needs to be bang on.
Gary.
Yes, I was a good professional practice, and look, I think it's a case of the sum of the parts have to all work, and there are strong pictures here, but I'm not sure they're all contributing enough as a 4. A singular picture of this may have worked a heck of a lot better, so that's just a consideration. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, Mandarin, you're right to reply, please.
I actually agree with all of those comments. I agree that if there was 1 image instead of 4, I would have gone much higher. But with what we've got, I'm just really enjoying the image. To me, that those leaves almost come alive. They look like tentacles almost, especially that one up the top right, and just the little delicate water droplets and the tonality of those droplets on the petals is just exquisite. So I believe it's a silver.
All right. Please rescore the print, judges. It's currently sitting on 78, and Mandarin has challenged it to bring it into the award range. And print stays at 78. Gary, thank you for your little contribution there. G, can you get back to where you were? And we will have the next print, please. Print scores 76. And Trevor will challenge who's on 82.
Yeah. I think you would like to just look closely at the narrative behind this. There's obviously a few technical difficulties with sharpness and contrast that I would love to have seen, to pull that overall feel up. But I just get this feeling looking in here, we're talking a bit of fantasy, and you can see interaction between the subjects and the object in between them. It has connection. I just love it for that beautiful story that I'm sort of feeling through there. I'd encourage others to maybe not look so much at the technical things right up front, and let's try to get this into that Silver Ranger. I think it belongs.
All right, thank you. Adam, let's hear from you.
I see the elements that might contribute towards that narrative, but I haven't, and I didn't sort of get it from yourself either, and I still don't get it. I am drawn to the technical aspects and the overwhelming feeling that the objects in the background are sharper than the ones in the foreground constantly pushes me into that void, and I don't want to be there because I'm encouraged from back here, and when I get up there, I'm led away, and that's, I think there's some good technique that being developed here, but of a professional standard, but not into the award range as I can see at the moment.
All right, Mandarin.
I love the idea of this. The technique is something that you could play around with and get some really cool stuff. The reason why I didn't score it higher was a couple of things. I found that the background was really distracting from the foreground. When you've got a background like that, how does it relate to the foreground? I don't understand that story. And if you can tell me the story, I'm just a little bit confused, especially about that central element, which I'm not even sure needs to be, selectively coloured so much.
Right, Trevor, your right or reply, please.
Okay. I sort of, first of all, the background, I get it, but it's sharper than the foreground. The transcendental sort of nature of the smoky effect of what the image is being created with is never going to be crisp and sharp, and I think that background being toned down so much is fine. I don't have a problem with that. The story to me is like this, the offering between these two subjects in the centre there, almost a communion between them. I can't sort of explain more what I feel, what I'm seeing there, but I can really feel that connection, and there's no direct link between them, but they're there and they're communicating with this object in the centre. I just feel it's a very, very nicely played out scenario.
All right, thank you for those comments, judges. Can you please rescore the print, which currently sits at 76, and Trevor has challenged it, and is encouraging you all to join him in the silver range. And print stays at 76. Okay, we'll have a judge change. So Andrew Campbell can come back on. And Ian, thank you. And we'll have the next print, please. Print scores 76. And just a comment from Adam, please.
The concept is there for all to see, but I think if we're trying to invoke some negative feeling, there needs to be some negative energy within that photo. I find the pose of each of the hand there matches the neutrality of the rest of it, and I think that would be the tension that could perhaps lift it up into the next level.
Thank you for those comments, and we'll have the next print, please. Print score 76. Just a quick comment, G, from you, please.
When this turned around, I was actually really about to be like excited. The struggle is when we walk up, the post-production's just missing a little bit. There is some haloing around that little flower and a certain graininess that's not quite sitting so well. I would love to see a rework of this image because I think you're starting to get there. There's a great story.
Thank you. And we'll have the next print, please. Print scores 82, silver award. And we have a challenge from Andrew Campbell, who's on 88.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Love the simplicity and elegance of this. The contrast between seeing something that I guess is presented softly and beautifully, and yet it's sort of really spiky and punchy, I think is quite cleverly done. The use of the colour palette with contrasting colours, I think, works very nicely for this image. Kind of thing you'd see easily in a museum or a hotel environment as a piece of decor. Look good in an art gallery. Look fabulous big. I'm quite like it a lot, really. Let's hear from you guys.
Just before you, I'm going to hear from G first. So you're on 78.
Look, Andrew, I respect those comments, and I think I did walk up to the print, and I think it's a beautifully handled print, and it's a spiky thing. And then I was like, for an award print, I want to see more story. I want to see something more. So this is a beautifully photographed spiky object. I think the other little issue for me was just maybe a little bit of a post-production issue. It's like we've got the background, and then in those spikes near the base, they're actually kind of a pure white compared to that flatter background. So I was just struggling a little bit with that. So I feel, fantastic hotel art, fantastic those sorts of things, but I don't want to see hotel art or museum art. I want to see something that makes me go, whoo, yeah.
Adam, please.
I enjoy what I saw from back here, and I was rewarded when I got in, because it is a spiky object. It's a very simplistic print presentation. When I get into the nitty gritty of it all, it's even there, even further in macro detail and macro detail. It's so well handled. What stops me coming up into you is the only part of it that I don't think is well handled is on that bottom left hand side. That just draws me out of what every time I look in closer, I'm drawn back. That little highlight on the base there is just a touch distracting. I think it is well presented, though, and I can be easily convinced.
Andrew, your right of reply, please.
I think I can help you with that bit. The highlight's there to give it three-dimensionality. If it weren't there, we would be looking at something very two-dimensional, very flat, and very, I guess, like an illustration. But as it is, because it's lit that way, you get the sense of depth, the actual object. If you reached out there, it would, ouch. You know what I mean? It would hurt you. I think that sort of Victorian botanical illustration quality that G touched on before in the museum is exactly right for the category. So I would encourage you to raise your scores.
Okay, judges, taking those comments on board, can you please rescore the print, which currently sits at 82. And the print now scores 84, and we'll go in for review. Great work, judges. And we'll have a next print, please. Print scores 82, silver award. And just a quick comment, Trevor, from you.
It's a very static image, but it just has so much depth and light from the way that the lighting is carried through. Nothing is overlit or nothing is a real problem. It's just has a gorgeous feel throughout, looking from front to back.
All right, thank you. Next print, please. Thank you, judges. And the print scores a 73. And Mandarin, a quick comment from you. You're right on the average at 73.
Yeah, I wanted to find a little bit more in this image. You've got a group of people looking out towards the door and one person looking to the right. And I'd love to know more of the story of why they're, are they in line? Are they waiting to see something? It just leaves me a bit flat. And also there's some technical issues as well.
All right, thank you. Next print, please. Thank you, judges. Your scores in, please. And print scores 75. And Adam, just a comment from you, please.
I feel like there's drama within this scene that's implied in almost every section of it, except in the payoff. So I think it's very static for what everything should tell me. You know, the foam, which leads to the casings, which leads to the hairdryer. You know, everything sort of tells that story. And when we get there, I'm not as horrified as I think I'm being led to be. And I think sometimes we just need how we construct that story, maybe how we get further into the award range.
Thank you for those comments, and we'll have the next print, please. Okay, Mandarin's going to step off for this image, and Gary Kranich is going to step in on behalf of Mandarin. Print scores 82, silver award. If you're happy with that score, I'll accept that score. And I'll just get a comment from Trevor on this, please.
Yeah, I enjoyed what's going on here, the way it's been put together. I was just an improvement might be just to tone down the light area on the top left-hand side, so you're more carried in with the story.
Okay, thank you. And could we have a blank screen, please? And we will have a break for lunch, and we'll be back here at 2 o'clock. And we're judging the 2017 Illustrative category, sponsored by AZO Monitors.